Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris and Ben here with Outer Rim Transmission, episode 183. Tonight, as you probably have guessed it already, we're talking about Skeleton Crew, episode 7. This one is called, it's not called Zero Friends Again. I got the wrong notes pulled up. Oh, I'm sorry, that's great. No, it's called We're Gonna Be in So Much Trouble. That was last week's episode. So we're gonna get into that. Maybe some interesting rumors that have taken the fandom by storm for something people have been waiting on bated breath for over the last couple of years. So we'll dive into that first. But first of all, how's it going, Ben?
Good, good. It's been a good weekend watching playoff football, hanging out, just, excited to talk about Star Wars, especially after that great episode of Skeleton Crew. I've been looking forward to hopping on here on the podcast all week and talk about it. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun time talking about all this new Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. Getting into my week in Star Wars, I found something that I could talk about. I was actually at Walmart today, picking some stuff up for the car, and yeah, well, it turns out that I seen some Star Wars stuff at a Star Wars toy aisle. I mean, it's like you go there, I got to take a walk down there. I don't buy stuff really anymore when it comes to like the merchandise, but I always like to just window shop and just see what's around. So I seen another Mandalorian figure, this time from Mandalore. It was cool because it came with the Beskar spear. It came with just like his shiny armor. So that got me to thinking like, oh yeah, Mandalorian is like the new Darth Vader action figure. Like you get a Darth Vader figure every year. You're going to get a Mandalorian figure for like every episode of the series. If it has like the most minor change in armor, you're going to get a figure for him. So that was just my thought, is like, oh yeah, this is the new Vader line is Mandalorian. I think we've all guessed that.
Oh yeah, it's well, I mean, of course, since he's like the flagship thing of Disney, him and Grogu now. It's funny you bring that up because actually my week in Star Wars was connected to your week in Star Wars, basically, because my dad actually had a late stocking stuffer. He forgot to put them into my stocking, I guess. And it was a Black Series Vader and a Black Series Mando from Mando season 2, actually. So yeah, because it was his like armor. It was like a more beat up look from like the finale when they're battling the Dark Troopers. But yeah, that was my week in Star Wars. Those are actually out in our living room. I forgot to bring that over here, but yeah, so my week in Star Wars, I got both of the flagship characters for a late gift of Vader and Mando.
I just realized I don't think I have a Vader action figure. I mean, no, I do have a Vader action figure. He's right behind me. It's a gigantic 12-inch Vader somewhere. You can see it in the background, maybe. But the Mandalorian, I don't know if I have an action figure of him. Actually, I do. I just don't know where he went.
Yeah, that was the first one I've had of Mando.
I have a Cobb Vanth, I have a Dark Trooper, and I have a Dengar right next to me. But they're in their boxes. I have a Grand Admiral Thrawn, as I'm looking right above. I have the Snoke figure. I have Praetorian Guards. I have a Death Trooper. I have a Snow Trooper. I have an AT-AT pilot. It's like I have a whole bunch of Black Series figures from over the years, and I've so many under the bed. And actually, I got a shipping notice that my Vernestra Row from the Acolyte is on her way. So, got to support the Acolyte when I can. And I ordered that as soon as they made it available. I was like sticking it to Lucasfilm. Like, see, I'm sending money. I support this thing, even if it's never going to come back. Vote for your wallet, people. I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing about that, so not to like change the subjects completely. When you're on the Acolyte, to add this little bit of interesting news I seen. So Manny Jacinto was at an expo, and he, I was watching the clip of it. He was talking, so before the show got canceled, the show had 3 seasons plus a movie planned. He was talking about. Yeah, that's literally, I just watched the clip like an hour ago before the Packers-Eagles game. And he said they had 3 seasons planned, and then a movie would cap it all off, is what Manny said. It was like at some, just some random expo, but he was talking away about it and, saying, the show got canceled, whatever, but that's what was eventually in the pipeline if it would have been like really well received and stuff.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's incredible. I could think of like the Darth Plagueis movie essentially happening, where it's like Darth Plagueis versus Manny
Yep.
Jacinto's Stranger and Osha, or is it May? I already forget who swapped with what character.
OSHA, yep.
Okay, so Osha and him versus Plagueis, and then at the end you get you get an epilogue with like a very small Palpatine or something. Like, oh, and that leads directly into the Phantom Menace 30, 40 years later or something like that. I don't know. A little
Yeah.
bit further
Yeah, I know
along
that
than that.
that's literally what got me thinking. I was like, man, I bet you that's where it would have went, like some sort of, just tailoring off, like hinting toward Palpatine and whatever. But I was just like, man, it's interesting. Even though that show wasn't great and I wasn't a huge fan of it, it's still interesting that they had ideas for 3 seasons in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm sure all these series have like this drafted. Okay, this is theoretically if this does well. Looking at the timeline, this could happen here. This could come out in 2026, and then another season in 2027, with a movie in 2028 or something. Like they gotta have some kind of plan, because especially when I kept saying this, when you put that much money into a brand new era of Star Wars, they're not gonna stop at one season. Well, they did because they just couldn't justify the price, but you would have thought like, okay, this is gonna be its own section, almost like kind of like the Mandalorian verse, but pre
Yep.
Phantom Menace. So yeah, it's a shame, but that's how it goes. And I've been seeing more Acolyte stuff in the wild. Like I went to GameStop a couple weeks ago looking for presents for people. I found that, and then yeah, so I've seen actually today. Yord, his lightsaber was there, like the cheap like $20 little lightsabers that you could play with the kids with. Like there was a Yord lightsaber, yellow lightsaber with the High Republic hilt. So it's bittersweet when you're going out in the public, you're seeing these things out there going, dang it, this they were setting this something up for a long time there, and they just nipped it at the bud pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, unfortunately, with like the show business on a lot of these shows. Really, I mean, shows get canceled surprisingly. Like Blacklight's case, it's viewership, but like shows, even like bigger shows that have gotten canceled before. So it's just you know it's interesting to see how it goes, but that's how it is with Hollywood, and especially with like Bob Iger being back in town for Disney and stuff. Like they're
Mm.
trying to cut back on expenses, and stuff's not projects aren't panning out. Like they can't justify it. So like that's that's why like shows like say like Mando can continue good, just because it's like Mandalorian's pretty much its own cultural phenomenon. So like they'll continue that regardless. But like a show like the Acolyte, that's more like say experimental, there's not like a huge justification. Now if that show would have popped off like Mando, then we would have been talking about a second or third season by now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, but it's still interesting that like just a couple months ago, it was kind of like Manny Jacinto seemed like he was sworn to secrecy in a way, where like he wasn't even gonna allude to anything, and now he's just out there in the public going, "Oh yeah, we had 2 other seasons plus a movie." Like I just find that hilarious, like how the time has passed now since the show came out, and he's just going out there saying this, saying that, and to my knowledge, he's still going to be at Star Wars Celebration in Japan, so. I'm very curious to see like if he's going to be on any panels, what he might say. Obviously, at a Lucasfilm convention, he's going to have to not say anything about the Acolyte at all when it comes to the future,
Yep.
because he's going to the people are going to be all around him with the can't say this, can't say that publicly. But yeah, very curious about that
Yep.
presence, about what he's doing over there. We just got an acknowledgement about another guest going to Star Wars Celebration earlier in the week, I believe it was, and now I completely lost it. There's an entire list on StarWars.com of the different actors and whatnot that are heading that way. Oh, it's Sam Witwer. Sam Witwer is going to be at Celebrate. He's going all the way from California to be at Star Wars Celebration. Well, actually, California's sort of on the way because actually I have to pass through California to get there. But still, it's a long way for a lot
Interesting.
of these celebrities to show up there, especially if they're not in anything currently, unless it's a hint for things to come. Maybe he is doing that Darth Maul series that we got announced like or unofficially rumored like 5 years ago. I don't know if you remember that, but they're
Yeah.
like, oh, there's going to
Yep.
be a Crimson Dawn Maul animated series.
Yep. Oh yeah, I remember that rumor being out there. And like, the thing is too, with with that and even like the Manny Jacinto stuff, even though I'm not a fan of the Acolyte by any stretch, like that show plus the Maul stuff, the Plagueis stuff, whatever, they could just like continue that stuff on in a Tales series in animated form. Like
Mm.
why couldn't he come back and play himself as a voice actor and just do a 2 episode arc of him and OSHA post Acolyte events with Plagueis or something and just get a little thing. And like, I mean, here's me fan speculating, but like just imagine if you do this, like you do Manny Jacinto and OSHA in the first 2 parts of Tales, then the middle two, it's like Plagueis and like Plagueis and like Manny or something, and then like the third part is like Plagueis slash Palpatine slash Darth Maul or something. Like they could they could do so many things with that Tales series. Like, you could indirectly continue a lot of things with these characters. So it's like, who knows, maybe we get like a little animated spin-off from the Acolyte, just a little limited couple part thing for Tales.
Yeah, the sky's the limit when it comes to animation with Star Wars. I absolutely love it. Because people could basically be immortal. Like these characters can be immortal. If it's 50 years from now, they just get a different voice actor that captures the voice perfectly like the prior actor, and there you go. You could just carry on the legacies of these characters forever. So that's one of the biggest benefits of animation is just that longevity of the medium when it comes to the acting talent. But getting into the housekeeping, right? We are Outer Rim Transmission. We podcast every week here on the YouTube channel for Star Raptor. Myself here, youtube.com/Star Raptors, where you can find us every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Join the chat, be a part of a Star Wars community. But if you can't, we are also available after the fact. You could just go to YouTube, find the live stream there, or if you'd rather listen to us on the go, we're available in podcast form as well. So make sure you go ahead, search Outer Rim Transmission on whatever podcast platform is your go-to, and you'll find us there. And please, on any platform, give us a review and a thumbs up and whatever positive metric they have. We would greatly appreciate it. As far as things that came out this week, we do have a single new Star Wars comic coming to us from Marvel, and that is the Battle of Jakku. That is Last Stand issue number 2. So really getting things heated up. We have 2 more issues left of that Maxi series, which is doing a great job of really fleshing out another enemy in Governor Adelhard that is giving the New Republic and the Imperial Remnant led by Gallius Rax a bit of a problem. Yes, this guy is going against Imperials and New Republic forces alike. So very interesting turn of events where that story has been leading. But what's most fun is we get to see Luke Skywalker in action post Return of the Jedi, kicking some acolytes of the Beyond's butts. It's really good so far. So we got 2 more issues left, and I believe they're coming out this week and next week, and that'll be it. So a lot of good stuff. I'm sure me and Matthew over on the Tractor Beam will have a good synopsis and deep dive of the next 2 weeks, and looking back at the entire 12 issue maxi series and seeing how this fits in a canon of Star Wars and what it does to the comic medium as far as this is an important part of Star Wars history, and they've been doing a good job of really, Alex and his team creatives have been doing a great job of pulling together all the little lore tidbits over video games and other novels and different things, excuse me. So very good stuff there. Now, Ben, I know there's a couple stories, or at least a story you wanted to mention before we get into our Skeleton Crew review.
Yeah, I mean, I think which story are you wanting to talk about?
We could mention the actor one.
Oh, okay. So for Ahsoka?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So, a really interesting one that came out this over the past few days. Rory McCann, the guy who plays the Hound from Game of Thrones, got reported by Jeff Snyder as well as Hollywood Reporter and the other Hollywood trades backed Jeff on his report. So he's going to be replacing Balin Skull in Ahsoka, which for all of us as Star Wars fans, we were all like concerned, like, are they gonna continue that story? They're gonna just do some like weird off-screen write-off, him transferring into the Force or just disappearing into the wilderness, like just something, just something else. And no, like they actually recasted Ray Stevenson with Rory, and I think it's a great casting because a lot of people have like talked about his character's so just I don't even know what the word is, like bold in Game of Thrones,
Yep.
but he has like such good acting range because a lot of people like remember the Hound from early on,
Mm-hmm.
but like as the series progresses, like he has a very good range because
Oh
like
yeah.
when he's like interacting with Arya and Sansa and like protecting the girls later on in the series, like he
Mm-hmm.
actually has like a good like he can like really show off his emotion really well, and I think that's such a good trait to have with Balin to for him to be playing Balin now,
Mm.
because like that character definitely was showing and implying different types of emotion when he was talking about like the past and like his feelings on Jedi and Sith and all this. And I just think it's a really good casting overall. And I think with him, the big thing is it just shows his character is pivotal for Ahsoka and for the Mandoverse, because if it was just some random character like like say Admiral Paleon or something, say if it was someone like that, they could just write him, or look at Cara Dune. Even Cara Dune, they just wrote her off screen and kept it moving. So like if his character wasn't important, they would not have recasted, like, and they had to have recasted because Balin's literally standing with the Mortis statues. So yeah, I just had to bring that up, and we'll of course talk about that in future weeks when we do like a full dedicated podcast with Milton about it. But I just think it's a cool topic to bring up just because that character is so important to all of us, and like out of all the new characters in Ahsoka, he was by far the best character.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's a shining example of adding in, a well-established actor into Star Wars and then them just fitting right in. Kind of looking at Jude Law right now with Skeleton Crew. He's like my favorite new character in Star Wars in the year 2024. I think I could say that for well into 2025 at this point. He was a bright, shining thing, and that's how I felt about Balin's skull. Now there were things I didn't like about Ahsoka. Sometimes it just felt a little odd with Ahsoka herself, Rosario Dawson. Like the delivery on some of those lines in the first couple episodes were really rough. It felt really sterilized, really kind of stale and cold from her character. Like what's happening with this dialogue? Like who's directing these scenes? It feels really odd. Like something's off here. But when it came to Balin Skull scenes with Shin Hati, like there was so much interest in there. And I was thinking to myself earlier today, because going back full circle to the Walmart, they actually had the Micro Squadron Galaxy Shin Hati starship, and I was going, yeah, I want to get when are we getting that book, that novel, the 400-page
Yeah.
novel between the bond between Balin and Shinhati and like their survival in this empire during the empire or whatever. I want the backstory, and I think if he wasn't gonna be in the show, they probably would have gave it to us. So I'm holding out hope that we maybe get some more flashbacks, as they often do in the Mandoverse, of like, oh, this is why these characters are important. They survived the absolute crucible of like Orders 66 with Balin, and like what did he do after that? He became a mercenary, and then his lightsabers aren't, like all these little details I would like to see get explained. And then we're talking about this now, so that bodes well. As far as the casting with the Hound, I think or I call him now Roy McCann. Obviously, he's been in a lot of other things besides Game of Thrones. What he's most famous for. I look at it, I'm like, that makes sense because he's very much a physical presence in Game of Thrones. I mean, that battle between him and his brother, the Mountain, at the end there, and even many points before that, he's a bigger dude. He's got that kind of persona, a tough guy persona. And I think he's going to fill his shoes very, very well for the character of Ban Skull, who was that bigger dude, kind of pushing Ahsoka around, giving her a run for her money. I mean, let's not forget he
Yep.
did defeat her in battle. Like he defeated her at one point. So it's cool to have somebody like Rory that's going to step in. It makes a lot of sense for me right now.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the best part coming out about this too is just the fact that now the door is open. Unfortunately, it was open because of Ray's passing, but now at least the door is open on the Lucasfilm side of things, where it's like, hey, if we don't have an actor to play this character because of like that or other life circumstances, we can recast and pretty much keep it moving. Like because it just felt like since Solo they were gun shy to do it, and now they go and do it like this, and it's good. It shows they're potentially open to it, and that gives hope for other future projects. Like maybe we do get a Luke recasting or a Leia, or maybe if they want to just like change over from Alden, like maybe a different Han or something. Like maybe we get those types of recasting. So I think this at least opens the door for those possibilities, which I think it would be really nice. I mean, even on the site I referenced it when I first started talking about this, like Cara Dune, like we all know what happened with Gina Carano, and I personally really enjoyed her character, but if they would have a real use for like Rangers of the New Republic and this stuff, and they don't want to bring her back for whatever reasons, like just recast her at bring in another actor to play Cara Dune, because I really did enjoy Cara's character. So like I think this casting just opens the door for so much more for Star Wars now. Like it just shows, kind of just nudges the door open to where it's like, oh hey, wait, we can actually do this without, you can do it in a respectful way. That's I think the big thing people are always worried about is like if you don't recast, like, or if you recast, is it disrespectful? And I think that's the important thing to remember here is like, we're carrying the character's legacy on versus just like letting it sit.
Yeah, you know what? We waited a long time, and they respected. Obviously, they weren't out there like a week later, or even like 2 months later, saying, "Hey, we recasted." Like, it's been well over a year. It's been a long time. He passed away during Ahsoka, right, or right before it came out.
He passed away, so it was right after Celebration. It was like a month after.
Oh
Celebration was
yeah.
like April or whatever, when he was like talking about being excited for fans to see Ahsoka, yada yada. And then it was like a month or two later. It was like May or June that year. It was a few months before Ahsoka even came out. So yeah, like it's been 2 years now, basically.
Yeah, and
Um,
and I'm sure
so
they were, vetting Rory and just making sure he was the right person to do
yep,
it. Apparently they were friends, I think, too, or they knew each other.
yep, I seen that as well. Which that I feel like that helps in this sort of situation versus just bringing in like some random no name actor. Like it helps like that they were close to the people, but also, you know, Rory is a quality actor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So like you said, we will talk about this later on after Skeleton Crew is over and behind us. But that does not mean it's a slight. I said that like, oh yeah, we got to get through Skeleton Crew like it's something we don't want to watch. No, we actually are enjoying it very, very much, and that's actually what we're talking about right this moment. So we are going to get into our discussion of Skeleton Crew Season 1, Episode 7. This one, again, is titled We're Gonna Be in So Much Trouble. Pulling the description from Disney Plus. Our heroes have never felt further from home. I'll throw this over to you, Ben. What was your first impression of the episode?
Excellent. I thought it was such a good episode. was a really good build up. It was a what's the word? Penultimate. It was a very good penultimate episode just for like all the different things that happen in it. You know, the direction it's going, like, it leaves us with questions for the finale. And also it did such a nice job of leaving us on a dramatic cliffhanger where it's like, oh my gosh, please let the show go on
Yeah,
for two
yeah.
more minutes.
Yep, yep, yep,
Um,
yep, yep.
so like I think that was perfect. Like it was literally such a good penultimate episode. Like I was so happy with it. It's been one of my more favorite penultimate episodes we've had in quite some time. And I think they did a really good job. And you mentioned it earlier. Jude Law is amazing. Like this episode was incredible for Jude Law's acting chops. Like he showed such a range on just everything, but especially I think his best acting of the season so far was just the whole sequence of him in the ship with the kids and just
Mm.
like how like he was just really showing off his like emotions and stuff. Like I really thought the episode was great and yeah, we'll really dive into it. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was right there with you. I think the sign of a good episode is when you're just like, come on, why the heck is it ending now? What the heck? Give us another 2 minutes. I don't usually do this with a Star Wars show, but I couldn't help it because I was looking at my watch every 10 minutes going, I know this episode's only like going to be like sub 30 minutes because it was like a 33-minute episode or 34 minutes and there's always 4 or 5 minutes of script. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, I started this exactly at 9 o'clock. Oh, it's 9:20. Up, it's 9:25. Up, it's 9:28. Like we're about to be at the end, and I'm like, this is where it ends. He's got the saber. He's ready to strike down the parents, and that's where it closed. I'm like, no. But you're right. As a penultimate episode, it did its job with bringing together everything to one location. Everybody arrives at Atten. There's no more secrecy. We kind of solved the mystery of what the show is, other than who the supervisor is. Like, we know everything about the Onyx Cinder at this point. We know what it is they're trying to get. We know how they knew how to get there, all that kind of stuff, right? They wanted to go back home. They're literally at home now. So that's all it leaves now is this last episode to really show the resolution. What's the fate of Jod? What's the fate of Ad-Aden? What's the fate of the New Republic and all this? Like, there's so many things that could be answered, but yet we got a lot of answers already to things we've been asking since the beginning of episode one. So, putting that in a conclusion, the thing with Jod, I mean, just seeing his turn to just being this really aggressive guy that is just pretty frightening for these little kids that are just like, you can't do anything to the kids. It's like, oh, we don't know. This guy is unhinged and he got what he wants and now he's just taking control. Like his way of dealing with Brutus, like just executing this wolf man on the spot when he was completely unarmed and helpless. It's like, dude is cold blooded. The way he just decapitates, 33 just without a hint of a notice, like, bah, like just take the saber out, like butchered him. Like this was insane.
Oh yeah, when he decapitated 33, I literally said "mother effer" out loud. I was like, "Holy flip!" Like I was sounding like Milton for a minute there when I was watching this episode because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I did not see that coming." Like I don't know, I just wasn't expecting him to go like full, like he is full now. Now this is what I was talking to my buddy about. I think it's almost done with him potentially ever being a good guy now. Because I think him killing Brutus, he's stepping into him being the bad guy. Like he is the guy now. So it's just like now my thinking is shifting on Jod, where it's like, man, is he gonna be like, now is he gonna be the pirate kind of like Renat, where it's like it's rumored he found Atten, but he never made it out. Like maybe it's something like that. Um, and then like the whole thing too with Jod, when he's talking to the droids at the Mint, it still leaves the mystery of, like you said, the supervisor, because it's like, he's talking down to the droid and everything basically. And, I keep like teetering on this theory. Is is are we gonna get like a twist, a plot twist for Jod's character where it's like a shocker, like it's a planet ran by droids, or is this gonna be like a Wizard of Oz situation where Captain Renat's still alive and he's just like
Hmm.
really old? He's like really old and running the show, and like
Hmm.
maybe he's the one that deals with Jod because there's something with the supervisor. I think
Oh yeah, they've been hinting at that since episode one, and there's a lot of different theories. But yeah, I mean that's the number one theory right now for in my concern is like okay, the mention Tack Renard being mentioned so many darn times, and then even now Jod is alluding to like oh no one found his body or where he last he was seen was at Aden or whatever basically. So it's like oh put two together that could be it. Um, but what it all comes down to is this the show has been so solid up to this point where we have gotten really good characters out of the ones we have. Yes, this is not as sprawling as The Mandalorian or as Book of Boba Fett or as Ahsoka or as Andor. But that's to its benefit because now we are hyper focused on Wim, on Neil, on Fern, on KB, on Jod even 33 like you said you curse like that's a
Yeah.
good sign. I mean we are attached to these characters because John Watts, Christopher Ford, and the team have done a great job of taking their time with this show. Yes, it's 8 episodes and the episodes seem short most of the time, but they do not waste a single minute with this show. That's I think what I will say is there is not any downtime. There's not any time where it's like, oh, let's just get past this scene. It feels like it's useless. Everything has been methodical in its execution and thoughtful with regards to a lot of callbacks to little details, such as last episode when they hit the button and the ship's armor falls off, or something about corrosion with KB's Augs. And the next episode, she's having issues. So they've been really good at like seeding things and calling back to them. But yeah, now we know that these kids, their lives are in danger. And what makes it even worse is that when Jod weaponizes the parents as like another like hostage situation, it's like, oh, this show's getting really dark. Like I know this show has kids in it that could people automatically think, oh, if it's got kids as the main characters, it's a kid show. I don't know. At this point, this is pretty freaking dark, you know?
Yeah, I mean it really is like because I mean I wasn't expecting. I mean I was expecting Jod to be kind of bad, maybe more in the middle. But like I said, he's gone more fully bad now, and him seeing the transmission of the parents, it's like, oh man, you have him, and like that's the crazy part. Like they did such a good job of editing this episode. I didn't see that coming of like him holding that over the kids. Um, so I thought that was a really it was a good almost like foreshadowing subconsciously they built into our heads just like 3 or 4 minutes prior to that scene. So that was a really good job there. And then I just think now it just ups the stakes for the parents going into the finale because we know he means business. And it's like we seen him already take out 33. And it's like, are we going to see him potentially take out one of these parents? Like, or is it going to be one of these situations where it's like he has hostages and then one of the parents decides to try to be brave and it doesn't work out. And then it's
Ooh.
like that's what sparks like whatever conflict and however things take off or something. Like maybe it's something like that because he's like you said he's unhinged, so who knows, and like maybe one of these parents like they're really defensive over their kid and they're like maybe earlier in the season like when Wim, I think it was Wim that was the one that charged Jod in the ship. Like maybe that is like foreshadowing like Wim's dad goes and like charges him or something and then gets taken out. Like maybe they do something like that. Because like I don't know. It's just I'm not sure where it's gonna go because Jod is so unhinged now.
Yeah, that adds so much more risk and threat and stakes to the story is just throwing that in there like, oh gosh, this guy's he's got the total look of a pirate, which I love. He's got the gun, like in the thumbnail for this
He's
video. He's
crazy
got
and has a
this.
lightsaber. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like that's pretty dangerous for anybody. Like,
Mm-hmm. Going back to the kids, the other thing I want to talk about is right in the beginning of the episode. They still are kids at heart, and they're going around kicking like the soccer ball thing around the ship. Like kids are gonna be kids, but then even Wim gets like emotional, and he's sad because he got to the planet, and for him it's basically like, oh, the story's over. It's the adventure is basically over at this point. But what did you think about that sequence there?
yeah, I thought that was interesting because it got me thinking. Of course, we ended up at Aden. Man, that's a tongue twister. But it eventually got us there. But at first, I was thinking, I was like, man, are we gonna actually not have the finale there? Like, what if things redirect and we go somewhere else and like maybe the pirates like I don't know. I was just thinking like maybe this leads us somewhere else, but it doesn't, and it's just like like you said, it the kids like learned their lessons, they went on their adventure and things, and now it's just like, oh wait, their adventure is like coming home with them, so now it's like they're actually having to deal with pretty much the consequences of like real life in the Star Wars galaxy, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Everything must come to an end eventually when it comes to moments like this. But to see how that all falls is just it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Oh, we have the Lowdown show, and we have Alex Elkins both in the chat. Good to see you both. Good to see you both. Alex, we'll get to your comments towards the end here. He's got a ranking of the entire Star Wars series so far, at least a couple of the ones he really enjoys. So,
Yep.
uh, getting into another thing I really liked is just the look of the kind of the barrier around the planet of Ad. I thought that was really cool, a really nice design. It's like this storm system that is, as we see, technology is controlling it to hide the planet. You can't be just going in there, as we see. I love how we get to see a demonstration of that. The arrogant pilot, just like, yeah, I'm gonna go in, boom, boom, boom. Poor guy just gets vaporized, as well as many other ones as they get chased through there by the Onyx Cinder, but yeah, I do really like the idea of this like supernatural kind of, but also sci-fi element of a planet just this crazy inaccessible nebula, and they're all questioning like, is this the real place? Is this where we need to be? And then Jod is gonna get jettisoned into space, and it's like that whole thing of like walking the plank for pirates, except in Star Wars, it's just getting it's thrown out the airlock. So I do like that thread as well. You know.
Oh yeah, they've done really well with the pirate elements on this show. Like that's what I told my friend about it. When we were watching, I was like, "Oh, this is just like it's like walking the plank." Um, so yeah, I think they've done a good job with that, and they've done a good job with crossing over the pirate stuff, crossing over the sci-fi stuff, crossing over the Star Wars stuff. Like I like the whole um idea. It's interesting, the whole idea of the only the ships from Aten can like make it through the atmosphere, basically. So like that's like an interesting concept that they've introduced, because I mean I'm not familiar with like a lot of like the current like ships in Star Wars canon and like their capabilities on things other than like the mainline stuff. But yeah, I thought that was like a very interesting element they introduced. That it's just like the Aten ships, like however they're made, maybe it's like their shields or whatever. Like I thought it was just a very very interesting concept they introduced there.
Yeah, I think it's the idea that the Ad ships must have some like translocator thing where like they automatically, because you've seen when they got close to one of those storm developer things, like it turned green. So I'm thinking it's a proximity thing where it automatically, it's like a key fob, like a giant key fob. You get close, thing unlocks. So something to that nature. But that was a nice kind of, again, coming back from last week, like seeing the ship transform. But then that adds like more complexity to it for me, because it's like, wait a minute. So this Aten ship was crashed, but it was originally piloted by the Captain Reynad. So that
Yeah,
almost
so that
lead more evidence that he's the administrator or the supervisor.
Yeah, because if the ship made it, I mean, it clearly made it. It was on the planet, so like, obviously, like you said, it's like, where's the body?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've seen corpses on the on the ship like in the first 2 episodes or 3 episodes or something. But as far as that's concerned, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all kind of comes together towards the end. But another thing I really loved, again, attention to detail, coming around full circle, is the very first scene of this show shows Captain Silvo opening a vault and having nothing in there but a single credit. Now we're gonna see Jod Na Nawood literally like basically bathing in gold. Like there's 1139 of these things. Like that's like, oh yeah, look at that, it's 1138 in Star Wars again. Little Easter egg. But that's just mind
Oh, I
blowing.
know. I didn't catch that till the second viewing, actually.
I didn't catch it until I went on StarWars.com with the little like trivia still things they have on there after the episode airs. But leave it to Star Wars to find a way of putting that number into almost everything. But yeah, that was cool. I liked how we're really seeing that character kind of get his due. You know, he's leading the pirates again. I guess it's just interesting. A very cool turn of events, and it's like every good pirate story worth its weight is gonna have the end goal be gold. Like the pirates are always greedy. They want to get this gold. Are they gonna get the gold? Is somebody else gonna get the gold? Like this is just the credits. Like this is just I don't even know how much money that what can that buy if you have that many vaults just like that one. That's insane.
Well, just think like in the regular part of the galaxy, think how much like one of those coins were worth at like the Pirate Cove area. Like
Mm-hmm.
just one, you had everybody freaking out, much less the vault. I mean, like
Yeah.
I joked to my buddy, if I'm Jod, like even though I'm a crazy bad guy, honestly, you're probably about passing out walking into a vault like that, like seeing that much money, like that's like you can't even contemplate that. Um so yeah, I thought that was a really, really good sequence there. Like you said, it was kind of a good payoff for his character throughout the show. Like, even if he is going to be like the bad guy and like whatnot, like at least he's getting like his like due of being a pirate and like fitting that kind of like greedy thing. And it makes you wonder, like I wonder if there's going to be some catch to all of this where it's like, you know, where Renat like does something and like maybe confronts him or something or another, because like all of these pirate stories, there's always like another pirate, around
Mhm.
somewhere.
Yep.
Like there's always another pirate. Like look at every, like Pirates of the Caribbean is the easiest example, but it's true. Like look, when Captain Jack's doing his stuff, like you always have Barbossa lurking around, and like
Mm.
or you have Davy Jones or whoever. So like who's gonna be like the Barbossa or the Davy Jones of this series? Like maybe it's gonna be a Renat character, like potentially popping up as the supervisor. Like just because I don't know, I just don't know how. I mean, is like I guess my thing. All this comes back to like all my ideas on like who could be confronting Jod. It's like personally, I don't think any of the parents fighting Jod is a believable thing for the finale. Like, because I think him being an experienced pirate would take him out like that, basically. So it's just like, how is Jod gonna get defeated?
Yeah, no, Ezra Bridger's gonna come in and save the day. Gonna come
Hey,
with the New
there we go.
Republic, Carson Teva. The Ghost comes in with Hera. They fight off Jod, and then a Chimera shows up, and Thrawn says, "I'm taking this whole planet. Start my new empire."
Hey, that's how you connect it. Hey, who knows?
No, that
Maybe
is meant to be
just
as
pull it.
sarcastic as possible. Like, let's not do that. That's just way too many characters that have no reason to be there at all.
Just pull. Just pull a book of Boba Fett, and all of a sudden, at the beginning of this finale, we'll hear the da na na da na na and see Grogu pop up and Din Djarin, and then we'll know what's about to go down. Like maybe we just get a classic Mando cameo.
I just keep
Um,
going back to, I think it was the actress that plays KB or one of the kids was saying that one day they were on set and it seemed like a really tall person that was like an iconic character or
Hmm.
something, and they couldn't believe that person was there. So I keep going back to
Hmm.
that because we have not had a moment like that yet. The only cameo we've had is Vane, and he was from like 2 episodes of Mandalorian season 3. That is as close as we've gotten to anything Mandoverse. There's been no Carson Tevin and X-wing, nothing. So
Hmm.
there is going to be somebody popping up. It's because why else would this be connected to Mandoverse? They're waiting for that final pop of the episode. I don't know how big this is going to be, but I also would like to think that Jod is gonna end up finding a greater threat and then having a turn of heart. Then maybe gets
Yep.
thrown into like Republic prison, but he won't be dead. And then maybe the Republic might use him later on when they need Force sensitives or something like that. Because I just like this character so much with Jude Law, and is he playing us? Is he playing us the whole time? Like, is there something else that he knows about and he's just putting on an act right now to be all brash and like big? Or is this really true to him? Like, I feel like this is why he's such
Well,
a great character because you don't really know what his grand plan is, you know?
well, see, that's my thing. I'd come back to as well. Is you're talking about like him having a potential grand plan. It's like when he's in the ship, taking the ship from the kids. He's like really like thinking and going over a plan in his head. It's like maybe that's more just bigger picture than just what's happening in the moment like right now. Maybe it's because he has like a deal with like the first order rising or something, or like, maybe he has a deal with someone or something or another, because it's just like I don't know. I think there's gonna be potentially something more there. And then onto your like you mentioned about the potential like tall character or whatever. Go out on a limb here. What if they go and make what if they somehow put in like, I don't know, Han and Chewie or something for like pirates? Like maybe they're like out and like they see a conflict going on or something. Like I don't know, like because I don't know who like a taller character would be. Um, because like I don't know, it's just a tough one because it feels like there's gonna be some sort of cameo or something or another. The way this is leading, like I mean, it is the Mandoverse, and like you said, will those little connections be the only thing connecting us to the greater Mandalorian landscape? Like, I don't know. I feel like we might have something, something maybe more than that.
Yeah. Oh, I would be remiss if we didn't mention the sequence in the beginning that opens up on the dark planet of Adat, and the parents are like they got this plan, they're all like espionage, like they're trying to get this little like transmitter out, and it's pretty brutal, man. Like they're getting stunned by these droids like the Terminator. It's like some people might be thinking those people are getting shot dead because it's just the way they flail, like just motionless to the ground, like boom, boom, one getting picked off out of time.
It was
Like
a smart
that was
plan.
pretty crazy, you know?
Oh yeah, it was a smart plan though, because like if you think about it, the parents know they're not going to get killed by the droids. So like they're like pretty much like, hey, you know, it's like a relay. Hand it to the next person. The person behind might get stunned, but it's not like we're going to get taken out.
I don't know.
So
I feel like what is the life expectancy of these people that are putting the entire planet at risk? Like that to me, I would
mm,
be worried. Like these droids feel like they're capable of dark deeds, and well, I mean, obviously we see they're fine. The parents are alive and they're going to meet their kids, but still, I was a little bit like, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen with these poor parents.
well, that, and then like it comes back to like the whole thing with the droids, like where it's like there's definitely something more. Like the droids aren't just protecting like the planet or whatever, because like in the beginning when you have Fern talking to Wim when they're in detention, where she's like, oh, they take you to the mines underground, blah 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 blah, like that whole just like spooky
Yep.
tale she tells him. That's not like, that may be just like a rumor or something, but the thing is that means people are getting some sort of imprisoned somewhere. You know what I mean? Like there's obviously something going on there. So it's just you know like that's why it's so hard to predict what's going to happen in this finale, because it's like you have all these little seeds they planted, plus you have all the craziness with Jod, then you have the supervisor, And it's like, what is going on? And then, like, also in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I hope they somehow get 33 back because I love that character. Um, so yeah, it's like there's a lot going on here leading into the finale.
Yeah, yeah, Alex Alkins is saying I'm praying so hard that at the end of the show it shows that we were able to save and fix 33. Yeah,
Yep.
very true, very true. There's a lot of uncertainty with that character. I mean, he's been left in the dust a few times now. Like the fact that he got stunned by the pirates, that they pulled him along onto the Onyx Cinder, and then or whatever, that they not the Onyx Cinder, but the other ship. By the way, that ship is really cool. I like the design. This big Ravager type of pirate ship that has its own hangar bay with the different ships that get in. It's a good design. It's like, okay, the pirates could have like their own little fleet moving around the galaxy to just like ransack planets at a whim.
Oh yeah. One thing I have to mention too, with the whole sequence with the two ships, with that ship and the Onyx Sender, like when they do the whole boarding party thing, I really like, again, like this show hits on so many levels. You have its serious moments like with Jod with the kids, but then you also have really well timed comedy in my opinion, because like you have the whole little back and forth between Jod and the kids about who's claiming the ship or not. And like, I like how there is a pirate code in the show where 33 is like, oh, well, according to the pirate code, a captain can only have one ship.
Yep.
And just the comedic timing of when he knocks him out, like, or hits him, like, that is such, like, it was just timed up so well with the editing and stuff. Like, it was just perfect. It was just enough of a pause where, boom, when he gets hit, you get a little chuckle because, like, they just timed it up so perfectly. And, like, that's one thing they've done consistently in this show is the comedic bits have all hit for me because it's like I don't know, they just have done a really good job of timing the editing on those types of things, and that just shows the talent you have behind the camera to be able to do that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of it's very tight. It's very tight with everything in the show. As I said before, they don't waste a moment. At certain points, they have time goes by in certain sequences. Like it was in episode 4 or 5 when it's like Jod is talking to these people. Next thing you know, he's walking out into smoke saying, "Hey, I made a deal and I got the Opies and all this sort of thing." And it's like we didn't have to necessarily see him like making a deal. Like we just see the after effects, which is actually more effective when you're surprised as a viewer going, "Oh yeah." So similar stuff in this episode was, cut shorter, but we didn't necessarily need to see it. We can imagine what happens, certain points and moments there. But yeah, do you have any final thoughts and any discussion points on this episode, Ben?
Not necessarily. I think we've hit most of the parts, or pretty much. I think we've hit every aspect of the episode overall. I just think, like I mentioned at the top of it, I think the episode was really, really good, just in every way because it leads us right into the finale perfectly because it leaves us on a cliffhanger, and it's a substantial cliffhanger where it's like, oh man, if 30 more seconds passes, like this family could get taken out by this crazy guy with a lightsaber. Like, what's going on here? And especially like, I like how they did the build up with Jod. Whenever his character is approaching, you hear like the footsteps walking. So it's kind of like Boba Fett, where you hear Boba Fett's footsteps, like you hear Jod walking, like you hear him. So I really do like the way they did that. And just like overall, I don't know. I just think the episode was, like I said, really good, really nice way to lead into the finale. And now it's just like, where do we head from there? Like, how do we end the finale? Does Jod get captured? Do we have? I don't even know. I'm not even sure where I could even predict with the finale. Like maybe, like you said, maybe we get something where it's like the Rangers of the New Republic come in and help out and maybe capture Jod, but then it's like, then what's happening with the supervisor and the kids? And like, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of things on the table because again, it just goes back to my thing of like, how is this connecting overall to the Mandoverse, or is this just going to be like loosely connected, where it's like it's in the Mandoverse but not really in it? Like, so that's something I'm looking forward to heading into the finale. It's just like, how is this going to connect?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But as far as looking how this is at a cliffhanger, they're gonna have to get external help. I would imagine somebody's gonna
Yep.
have to come in because our main characters are held at lightsaber point. Jod's in power. They're down deep below the earth of Ad, it's probably going to be you're probably nailing the head on the head the nail on the head there with it's going to probably be Kim that's going to be like, hey, like these people are at and they need help, boom boom, and we've been seeing the X-wings all throughout like chasing them, right? And I think that'll be the Carson Teva cameo, him coming in. Yeah, I think it's going to be the Rangers saving the day, to a certain degree. I think the kids are going to get the one up on Jod because this is a
Yep.
story about them, so they can't be like saved completely. Like, we're going to want to see the kids actually have the brilliance of working together to like somehow thwart the adult enemy, which is going to be so satisfying. So there could
Yep.
be an external element that helps them do something to distract
But
and
here's
then take them out or
here's
something.
yep. Here's my question though for you. Do you think we get a moment in the episode, because I feel like it was kind of foreshadowing for it, potentially foreshadowing for it when Jod is like smack talking when they're in the ship, when he's like, what are you going to do about it, blah 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 blah, like all of this sort of stuff. Are we going to get a moment like where this kid, his whole thing about everything is being like a Jedi and all this stuff? Are we going to get a moment like where he's in danger, something's about to happen, and he somehow uses the Force? Because like
Oh,
he's heard legends about these Jedi, like, they clearly know the feats of like what Jedi can do and stuff. So like, who's to say like the kid doesn't try to hold his
oh
hand
my
out and just
gosh.
get some sort of little Force nudge that just, he doesn't get blown away, but what if he gets knocked back and then it gives like Fern an opening to like hit him or something? You know what I mean? Like maybe we get a moment like that, because it's like the kid, I don't know, I just feel like they've done maybe it's too easy of foreshadowing, since
No.
they've been like kind of foreshadowing Jedi stuff with him since the beginning. I mean, you even had KB call him a Jedi. So like maybe it's too easy, but to me it's like, what if we get a moment where it's like that, and like then you have your Carson Teva character. Think about this. Hey, there you go, Chris, seeding in more and more of the wider Star Wars universe. Then you have Carson Teva be like, "Oh, hey, I seen this kid use the Force. Let me go tell this other guy I know." And it's Luke. Like, maybe it's
Yeah.
something like that.
We're on to something. Yeah, I think this could make a lot of sense. You're gonna introduce him as a force sensitive. Maybe, just maybe, he actually force grips the lightsaber out of Jod's hand. And
Mm,
we've seen him try to wield a lightsaber before and not capably at all. And this time he gets it right and he stands true and then he defends the people. I would like to see that. And by the way, we were here last week talking about, oh, this is going to be the big heavy flashback episode. We're going to get Order 66. We're going to see some famous Jedi, maybe Qui-Gon Jinn, all these different characters. And yeah, that didn't happen, everybody. So that was kind of funny how we spent so much time talking about that. But hey, that's the nature of the beast, right? Sometimes things are looking pretty good and they don't happen. But the main thing is the character is just as compelling with or without a flashback. I would still like to get that Jod story, same as I said before about that story about Balin and Shin Hati. But when it comes to the story, we got what we need from Jod right now. We know he could be a good guy, but we know he could also be a very terrible person at the same time. So, yeah, with all that said, getting into final thoughts and scores here, I will start this one off, and I'll say I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. Really great, strong performance by Jude Law. Fantastic action with going down to the planet trying to evade the ships and whatnot. I got to docket points though because I mean, come on, you're gonna leave us on a cliffhanger like that. Just it's almost unsatisfying with how bad that like how it makes me want to watch the episode. I don't know if that makes much sense to dock points, but I was just like feeling not as satisfied, I guess you could say, as I would like to be when it comes to this series, just by the way it ended. So that's my justifying my score for an 8.5. But what about you, Ben?
yeah, I think for me, I think for me overall, the episode was really good. It hit all of the things I was looking for leading into it. The big thing is just hooking us into the finale, which it did its job doing that, and just really seeing the character development of all the different characters and like different things they've learned and how they've changed. Especially like Jod's character, Jod, in particular, like his character has been such an interesting one because, like you said, we go from potentially last week where Jude Law, we were like, oh, maybe he's kind of a bad guy and we might see a flashback. And then this week they're like, no, we're actually just going to make him the straight up bad guy of the series. So, just seeing him flip over to be the bad guy of the show was interesting. And it just leads us into the finale really nicely just because of all the different little questions we've talked about and speculated on throughout this whole episode. And for me, it's the runtime thing, like I don't know. I'm not gonna docket points on that because like honestly, that's just a Disney Plus thing, unfortunately. Like with this company, like to me, if we're gonna knock it, like that's a Disney Plus thing. Like if Disney Plus was like I don't want to get on a side thing about Disney Plus, but that's why Disney Plus, in my opinion, is the worst of the big streaming services. Just because of their low run times, they're the only company that does that. But overall, yeah, this episode, for me, it was a 9. Just for all of the reasons I mentioned. Thought they did a really good job with the comedy, the action, the suspense. Heck, I was even nervous. I was very nervous after he took out 33, and then when he was talking to Wim, when Wim was like, well, what are you gonna do? And like the camera kept going on Wim. I was like, dude, is this kid gonna charge a guy with a lightsaber? Like, what is gonna happen here? Like, because even my buddy Alex, he was like, dude, is he gonna kill Wim? Like, what's going on? Because it was just like so suspenseful, So like they did a really good job with the editing on that sequence, and yeah, overall, it's just another 9, and it has me excited for the finale.
There you go. Speaking of Alex, your buddy also wrote in about his order for things so far with Star Wars. Number 1 is Ahsoka Season 1. Number 2 is Mando Season 2. Number 3 is Skeleton Crew. And number 4 is Mando Season 1. I'll kick it off. I'll say number 1 is going to be Andor. Number 2 is going to be Mando Season 2. Number 3 is going to be Skeleton Crew. Number 4 is going to be Ahsoka.
Yeah, those are good rankings for me. It's Ahsoka, Mando 2, Skeleton Crew, Mando 1, and then I don't know, then all the other shows. But I don't know. I do think like when it comes to like the ranking in the Star Wars shows and everything, like it's nice to see Skeleton Crews like creeping up the rankings for like everybody in general. Like just be like the people that are watching, like sure the viewership isn't great. But the thing is with the show, I mention it every week, at minimum, the show is like a neutral to positive. I've never seen anybody just totally gutting and ripping the show apart. Like at minimum it's just like neutral where it's like, oh yeah, it's fine. But it's nothing like crazy divisive like it was with the show last year, like with Acolyte. So it's just like I really can applaud them for making a show like that. Like, and I think that's something Star Wars needs to continue to do, to continue to make shows that have a good floor where it's like at minimum it's neutral, but it has a good upside. Like that's the big thing I think they need to like take away from Skeleton Crew, regardless of if the show gets renewed or not. I think that's like the big lesson for the creatives at Lucasfilm, where it's like, hey, like instead of like getting too, like it's fine to take risk and everything, but make it more calculated risks than what they have done prior. So I think it's a good sign and a good direction of where they're heading. And I think they'll be able to look at the metrics of it and see that. And just even, like I said, even if it's not renewed, they can look at the model of it and be like, hey, we can apply this to other things where it's like, hey, let's just make something that at worst is neutral, best is positive.
Oh yeah, for sure. So next week we should be joined by Milton for the finale. So we'll look forward to that, and we'll get his thoughts on this week's episode as well. But Ben, great show talking about Acolyte, talking about Star Wars action figures and the like. Where can people follow you online?
Yeah, you can find me on X and Instagram at Real Ben Maynard. I'm always on both of those, talking about Star Wars, football, fitness, and DC stuff, and that's pretty much it. And then you can find Milton on X at Milton Weber 7, or his Instagram where he's always posting like fitness and like other like memes and things at Milton 7 Weber.
There you go. And you can follow me here on youtube.com/StarRaptor, on Twitter at StarRaptor. I'm just talking a lot about video games and Star Wars and DC and Marvel and all the good pop culture geek stuff. So that's what you can find me doing and talking about over there. So for Ben, for Milton, for Chris, aka StarRaptor, we'll see you back here talking about a Skeleton Crew finale. Oh man, we hope this is going to be epic. But until that time, may the force be with you always.